open the pod bay doors.
Greetings and welcome to another exciting episode of the Cinematic Traveler Podcast. I am your intrepid movie-exploring host, Chris, and on this streaming surprise review episode, I will be bringing you my review for the Hulu original film NightBitch, directed by Marielle Heller and starring everyone's favorite Amy Adams. And a movie about the struggles of motherhood is right in my wheelhouse. I'm super excited to be giving this review. But before I do, if you could do me a favor, whatever you're listening to this podcast on, somewhere on that screen, there is a follow button. If you go ahead and click that follow button, I would greatly appreciate it, as it does help me get the show out there to more people. But it also helps you because you won't miss another episode and you'll get to hear these amazing reviews and listen to my sexy, sexy voice. Also, if you want to leave me a rating and a review, I would greatly appreciate that as well. And if you'd like to follow me on social media, my Instagram is probably the best way to do that. That is at Cinematic Traveler Pod. I also have a Twitter at CMT Pod. I'm on Blue Sky, whatever the hell that is, at Cinematic Traveler Pod, something. I also have an email address, and that would be the cinematictravelerpod@gmail.com. So if you would like to participate in any of the contests, you have plenty of options to do so. Plus, you can always follow the show and see when the new releases are coming and what other goofy things I decide to post onto goofy social media. I hope that you're doing well, my beloved listener. We are racing into the new year. Happy New Year and all that fun stuff. It's 2025. Hard to believe that we are still going. I thought by now we would have destroyed everything, but here we are hanging on by a thread. Hopefully 2025 will be a better year for those who need it to be a better year. Or if you had a great 2024, hopefully that's a launching pad into 2025 and things will only get better. And if you are making New Year's resolutions, might I recommend listening to this show more, recommending it more, sharing it on your social media more? I would greatly appreciate that. And that's an easy resolution to do. I mean, you could do that and at least have one thing on your list that you'd be like, yeah, I accomplished that in 2025. Plus, you helped another human being out, and we really need that in this day and age. So now that I have buttered you up sufficiently, let's go ahead and move into our review for NightBitch. And if you are new here or need a refresher course, I'm about to over-explain some things. I am going to give you a spoiler-free plot synopsis, and in that plot synopsis, I am going to hide two movie quotes from films that are either parallel to this movie or have some DNA. And if you can identify those movies, just message me on whatever social media or email platform you'd like to. And for each one that you get right, you get a point. And at the end of the month, I add up all the points. Whoever wins gets to pick a movie for me to review in the next month. I will say that if you're just listening off and on, first of all, shame on you. But second of all, if you just want to participate for the fun of it, you can do that as well. It's all right. You can be uncool with Chris. That's everybody's favorite time of the week, is to be uncool with Chris. So now that I have gotten that out of the way, we can officially begin here with NightBitch. And I just keep wanting to say the title of this movie, NightBitch. I actually used to say that to my ex-wife, but it sounded like this: NightBitch. Hard to believe I'm divorced. Wait till you get to the end of this review. You're going to be like, damn, it makes sense why he's single. But as I mentioned, this is directed by Marielle Heller. Checked her out on IMDb. There was nothing on there I had seen before, so this will be my first foray into her filmography. Now, as we open the film, we meet Mother, and yes, that is the character's name, played by Amy Adams, who has left her life as an artist to be a stay-at-home mom for her young son. Well, she is losing herself in the rinse and repeat nature of being a mom, while her husband, a cartoon character played by Scoot McNairy, travels every week for his job, giving her very little help in between weekends. Now, Mother is going through a midlife crisis as she sees her dreams as an artist slowly fade away, causing her to think, if I had a dream that didn't come true, I could at least be pissed off at the world. Instead, I'm just pissed off at myself. Hint, hint. Through this anger and frustration, she begins to see physical changes that slowly cause her to transform into a dog at night. Now, this newfound excitement and freedom that comes with changing causes her to push back against societal norms for being a mother, as well as push back against her husband, having her ask something akin to, why can't you give me the respect that I'm entitled to? Why can't you treat me like I would be treated by any stranger on the street? Hint, hint. And I feel like I really needed to put the hints in there on this one. I struggled to find some quotes for this movie. But anyway, so out goes husband, and mother begins to embrace her new canine energy. But will this quest for a rebirth in life cause her family to fall apart? Or will this night bitch retrieve her passion and save her family? Well, I will not answer those questions and ruin this movie, but I will give you the best damn review for Night Bitch in all of the podcast universe. Nay, in all of the universe. Now, again, if you are new here, I do break my reviews down into 3 segments: the good, the bad, and the nitpicky. The good is the stuff that works for me in the movie. The bad, obviously stuff that doesn't. And the nitpicky, these are things that are neither good nor bad, just little things they put in movies, sometimes Hollywoodisms, or sometimes things that just stand out. And I pick them up with my weird little brain, and they make me laugh. And I'm going to try to make you laugh with this podcast, because if there's 2 things I'd like to do in life, that is to make people laugh, and, well, the other thing I don't get to do quite as much as this podcast, unfortunately. So let's move into the good of Night Bitch. I love the title for this. That's why I had to review it. Actually, there were 2 reasons. The other one was Amy Adams. I saw her in a preview. I am a fan of hers. I think she's a great actress. I also think she's adorable as hell. And you could judge me all you want for that. But that is the first positive of this movie. I think she is the sole reason to watch this movie. She does carry it from start to finish. And speaking of the start of the movie, yeah, she does from the beginning with the whole Groundhog's Day nature of being a mother, where it's just sort of, like I said, it's rinse and repeat. She gets up every morning with her son and makes breakfast and tries to entertain him. They have like this schedule where they go to the local library, where they have like a kids musician once a week where they participate in that, and all these other things where she's around all of these other mothers, but she doesn't really want to be a part of that group because, as I mentioned, she was an artist. She was actually a very talented artist, was getting shows in prestigious museums in the area, and she sort of gave that up to be this stay-at-home mother. So she doesn't really click well with the group of mothers that she's around, at least at the beginning. But I will say she's also a fun mom. I will say that little boy had a great mom because they do all kind of cool stuff. There's one point where she breaks out some finger paints and they just go crazy in the kitchen. And it's actually a really cool scene because it starts out as this fun, frolicky thing, but by the end, she's just in tears because of really, like I said, she's having this midlife crisis where she's done lost herself and the passions that she had. And now she's just, a robot going through the motions and trying to deal with it the best she can. And she also has a bit of, there's narration throughout the movie and some inner dialogue where and my favorite parts are where she's dealing with people trying to give her these like mental health cliches, because she's really in a deep depression in this movie. And, there are people that I think there's a point where her husband's like, happiness is a choice. And in her mind, she just reaches out and slaps him in the head. And then she just, it goes to reality and she just smiles and nods. Oh, yeah, that's true. And believe me, I know of which I speak. But when you're in one of those places, you don't want to hear about how happiness is a choice. But she has a couple of those moments in this movie, or where someone tells her how lucky she is to be at home, or is she happy to be at home? And there's this inner dialogue where she's just like, no, I want out. I want to be who I was before all of this. And then you see her move from this point where she does start, and it is surreal, this movie, this thing where she turns into a dog. They literally show her doing that, but obviously, I guess it's up to your imagination whether she does or not. But, she fully embraces that and finds her passion again and is able to really stand up for herself and establish her dominance, as it were, and kind of get her life back where she wants it, to where she's happy again, and where she can be a good mother to her son while still chasing her dreams or fulfilling the things that she needs inside of herself. So again, Amy Adams carries this whole movie and she does an amazing performance. My next positive of the movie, and I did mention that it has its surreal moments, as far as, the whole dog thing where she turns into the dog. It's comical in some ways, but it's also cathartic for her character. So it's kind of a fun little twist on this movie. Also, as I mentioned, with the whole where she has these moments where someone says something to her and she just plays the scene out in her head as she wants to say it or what she wants to do, and then kind of snaps back in reality. So you have these moments of the movie where you're like, is this really happening or is this in her head? And that makes for a fun watch. Mostly, I'll get into some negatives here shortly, but it at least keep your interest in the movie. Like I said, at moments. I don't want to give away too much right now. My next positive for this movie, this is a really silly one, but there's a whole montage in this film that is set to the song Dare to Be Stupid by Weird Al Yankovic. And anytime somebody not only puts a Weird Al song in their movie, but a whole montage to it, you're going to get a positive from me. Also, my final positive, and I say this every time, it's less than 2 hours. So you're not really losing a whole lot of time with this movie. Plus, it's on a streaming service, so not a whole lot of effort is put into viewing NightBitch. I think I watched another movie one time called NightBitch, but it was totally different than this. Let's go ahead and move on to the bad. And this is where I'm probably going to get a lot of trouble, but I will say for this movie, the messaging feels really... Well, number one, it's heavy-handed, which I knew it was going to be going into it. If you watch the trailer, it's kind of like, okay, it's going to be one of these movies, which is fine for me. I'd like to see stories about different people and how they live their lives and what's different, people go through and how you can kind of relate to that. A really good movie can take someone's life that you have no connection to and make you understand what they're going through or build that connection to you as an audience member so you can relate. I mean, like I said, there's points in this movie with her mental health or just dealing with kids or going to the grocery store. There's stuff in there where you're like, I can understand what she's going through right now. I get it. And that's cool to do, but this one is very heavy-handed. And I think what makes it feel even more heavy-handed is that it feels outdated to me. I mean, is it such a bold statement to make a movie about a mom having struggles being a stay-at-home mom, especially in this day and age where, most people, their jobs are kind of what defines them, or, having to put your passion on the back seat while you do this. Honestly, I knew that without watching this movie, and it plays it like this is some major, amazing revelation, and it's really not. I'm like, okay, who doesn't understand that at this point in society? Although if you want to look up Bill Burr and stay-at-home moms on YouTube, he will have a very interesting opinion on that topic. But yeah, I felt like through this movie, I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it. I knew this. I understand it. You're not really telling me something shocking, and yet this movie's making it out to be some revelation about how things go in the world. It would be tough for really anybody to stay at home with a child. Ooh, that is a challenge that few have the bravery to embrace. And as a man, I obviously can't understand what it's like to be a mom and have to go through a pregnancy and everything like that. And Lord knows I've had some people in my life tell me that as a dad, I'm not quite as important in my children's life. But nonetheless, I cannot understand what it's like, to have to go through that physically and what it does to your body and your hormones. I can understand it from my point of view, having been married and gone through that, as well as having, a couple of sisters and what they've gone through it. So I can understand on a surface level, but on a deep meaning, I can't understand. But I do get that is a difficult challenge for any woman to have to go through. And then you add in this level of depression and leaving your dreams behind to be the stay-at-home mom. And, I get it. But I knew that before I watched this movie. It didn't bring anything all that new or interesting to me. And the next negative of the movie, and I mentioned it in the plot synopsis, is the husband, played by Scoot McNairy. I just like saying his name too. But yeah, he's just a cartoon character. And I get it. Listen, again, I sit here as a man who was married and it didn't work out. And I will never say that I was an amazing husband or did things perfectly or whatever. I was a good dad. I like to think I was a good dad, but I know I had my faults as a husband. But man, this guy, I'm like, shit, 5 minutes into his first appearance in the movie, I was like, okay, you just need to either boot this guy out or something needs to change because he's terrible. He's a caricature of a man. He doesn't understand how to deal with his son and how to, like when he does come home for the weekends and she needs this break, he tries, but he can't find the milk, or he doesn't know how to get the son to go to sleep, or he doesn't have this, or there's moments where she's having to deal with something and he's in the other room playing video games. And it's, again, I'm sure there are times, and I know I did it as a band, you kind of don't really understand some things, but there's a point in this movie where I'm like, okay, dude, no man would be like that. I mean, if I honestly, in this day and age, I don't think a man would be like that. But if he is, then yeah, there needs to be some sort of rearrangement of this child care because, I mean, most guys would come home and they would at least try. They'd at least be able to know basic things. They'd at least be able to give their son a bath, or if the milk's out, be like, okay, I'm going to go to get some more milk, not stand in the bathroom and argue with his wife about why there's no milk in the refrigerator. You know what I mean? And there, again, I'd like to think that if I was ever in a relationship again and we had, well, I'm not going to have kids anymore. No, I can't do that at my age. But let's just say for some weird reason that was the case, I would take into account that she had been with my child for 4 days while I was gone, and I would try my best to give her that space and that time where she could go off and be on her own. And this guy, he's just constantly wrong about everything, except there is a moment. This movie had my attention, and I thought, okay, maybe this is going to turn a different way, and then it falls right back into the bullshit. But eventually they have an argument, a big argument, which, by the way, on a side note, this thing happens in this argument where I'm like, is this a woman thing? Because I know couple women that I argued with that used to do this shit, because like Amy Adams is on one side of the room, he's on the other, and as the argument gets a little more heated, she gets like right up next to him, and I was like, I was having flashbacks. I was like, I don't like that. Is that something women do where you just have to get like right up against us or right in our face? Ooh, I hate that. But anyway, they're having this argument, and she basically lays it out there, and she's like, hey, I gave up my dreams, and I'm here to help him, and I need more out of you, and I need you to be more supportive of me, and this and that and the other. And every point she brings up is a valid point. And when he first responds, I was like, okay, we've got something here, because he does say something that, yeah, I'm sure all of us men have thought is like, I can't read your mind. And he says that. He says, when I ask you how things are going and you say things are going good or okay or fine, then I'm going to take you at that. I don't know if it's not. And really, even in the movie, which is a credit to Amy Adams, she has a moment in this argument where she kind of stops and thinks about that. I was like, okay, we're going somewhere. But then it instantly turns into him complaining about how she's not the woman that I married and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, he just goes back to this cartoon character. And then at the end, when, well, I don't want to spoil things, but he gives a speech about how she's a goddess or she's the greatest thing since sliced bread and all that. And it's like, oh God, I'm sorry, but I was just like, that's the only way that she'll accept him back, is if he basically tells her how perfect she is. And I'm like, oh, that's lame. That's also another negative of the movie, is that she comes across as this perfect creature, this goddess. And I was like, okay, well, we know that's not real. Sorry, ladies, not everybody's perfect. Men suck, women suck, moms suck, dads suck. We all suck. Kids, they suck. It's all awful, awful, horrible thing. Again, see, now you don't understand why I'm single. And then it leads into another part of this movie that was really a negative for me. As this marriage is falling apart, I'm just sitting there going, oh, this seems like a really easy fix to me. This does not seem like a big, complicated mess that should end a marriage. It was very depressing when it starts to end things, and things, he has to move out at a certain point. And it's like, well, if he can move out and afford an apartment, then couldn't he afford a nanny? Or, if she wanted to go work at the art studio, they'd be like, okay, do that. We'll figure something out. Or if he needs to quit that job and find a job that's local where he could be home every night to help her or something, you know what I mean? And again, that kind of ties back to things, because they could have shown where there is a point where they're separated, where he has to learn how to be a better dad with his son on a daily basis. Like, he understands how to give him a bath and all that stuff. They could have showed that, and then he could have this revelation that, okay, these were the things I needed to do, and I did make mistakes. instead of telling her, oh my God, you're perfect in every way and I'm just a failure at everything. But, like I said, I'm sitting there watching, I was like, all you all have to do is talk to each other and figure out a better plan, and this would not be an issue. If she was my wife and she's like, I'm going crazy if I don't go back to work or go paint again, I'll be like, okay, what do we have to do to handle it? Do we have to get a nanny? Do we have to do daycare? I'll quit my job. I'd do something to make her happy. I wouldn't want to be around a miserable. I don't want to make anybody miserable, although I'm very good at it. But like I said, this seemed like a very easy fix for me in this movie. It would not take years of marriage counseling. Really, I think one session would be like, look, you stay at home more and you go out more and we'll be fine. My next negative for this movie is that it's supposed to be, I guess, it's listed as a comedy horror, which is kind of weird, I guess, because there's body horror in it when she turns into the dog, but it wasn't like a scare fest or anything. But it's got drama in it, but it is much more of a drama than a comedy. In the trailer, I got I will say, a little misled by the trailer, because I thought it was going to be more of a surreal comedy about what this mother is going through and her trying to regain herself. But, with the little clips of her smacking her husband when he says, happiness is a choice, stuff like that. I thought, all right, this could be a lot of fun. And Amy Adams, she's obviously a talented actress. She could pull that off. But you get a lot more drama, and it gets, like I said, it gets really depressing. And then it has like this happy ending where you're like, okay, whatever. But yeah, I wish it would have been funnier, and maybe it was just comedy that wasn't really geared toward me, and that's why I missed it. So I will say it's a negative, but it's a low negative, because like I said, it could have been geared toward women and I just didn't get it. And ultimately, my final negative of the movie is like I said, it feels very pointless, because I guess it ties back to the first thing. This messaging of this movie is, for lack of a better word, is outdated. So really, you see this character go through everything and then sort of end up at the end. Yeah, she's better off in her life, but at the same time, you're like, okay, well, what was the point of this? Why did I watch this? What was the reason for it? I didn't really feel anything by the end of this movie to make me go, oh, what a revelation. What an insight into motherhood. So now that I've dug my grave a little bit deeper, let's slide into the nitpicky of the movie. And again, these are things that are neither good nor bad, just little Hollywoodisms or whatnot that always seem to make me laugh. And hopefully I can make you laugh as well. My first nitpick, and this goes for every Hollywood movie. I might have said this one before, I'm not sure, but they have this sex scene, the mom and the husband, they have a sex scene in the shower, and movies always make these shower sex scenes look so great and romantic and hot and passionate, and I'm like, oh my God, every time I've ever had sex in a shower, it's been miserable. Admittedly, I am tall. I'm 6'5", so going into a normal shower at any rate is a challenge for me, because the head of the shower is about at my chest. But yeah, usually you're in the back, you're freezing cold, and you're not getting any water. And then when you do get water, it's shooting everywhere. You're just trying not to slip and fall and break your neck. Even though, if you're going to go, death by snoo is the way to do it. But they always make it look so romantic. Maybe if I was the same height as whoever I was with, that would be both scary and fun. But at the same time, yeah, it starts off fun, but by the end, I'm like, God damn, let's just get this over with. Let's see, my next nitpick for the movie, and I actually love this. This is, anytime I hear it, I love it. But there's a moment in the movie where her son, they're at the sing-along at the library, and he drops the F-bomb. And is there anything funnier than kids cussing? Is there ever a moment in a parent, all you parents out there, is there ever a moment in your life with your children where you're not the most proud of them when they drop their first cuss word? Especially if they use it correctly. There's always like a little tear in your eye. Like, yeah, I'm supposed to be upset. You worked that F-bomb right in there perfectly. You actually used it perfectly in the sentence as well. I am both upset at you and extremely proud of you. And my last one, this isn't really a nitpick either, but there is it's one of the better lines in the movie, but there is a point where Amy Adams stands up at this dinner and she yells out at everybody, I can crush a walnut with my vagina. And if a woman ever yelled at me, I would probably marry her right on the spot. So So that wraps up our nitpicky section on a high note there. As for my final thoughts on NightBitch, and while it is on a streaming service and it was easy, just hit a button, I'm kind of disappointed. I would tell you to watch it just for Amy Adams because she is really great in the movie. But if you're looking for something that's a comedy, this isn't it. If, it's heavy-handed with its messaging and it doesn't really go over the line of surreal enough for me. It just kind of like tiptoes across there and comes back. And it just, at the end, I was like, okay, why did I watch this? What was the point? What did I learn? And really, you don't learn anything new that you didn't already know. And, aside from one amazing performance in the movie, there's really nothing else worth watching. So I would tell you to skip this unless, like I said, if you're an Amy Adams fan and you want to see an excellent performance, or even if you just want to see a really great performance in a movie, then watch it. But just know you're probably going to get bored at many moments in this movie. So my overall verdict is to just pass on it. Unless, like I said, I got a little asterisk there. You like Amy Adams or you're just desperate for an excellent performance in a movie. So that wraps up my review for NightBitch. And if you are still listening, then I must have done something right. And again, if I did, if you could please follow the show and give me a rating and review, I'd greatly appreciate it. Also, if you want to get in touch with me about my review or if you want to participate in the contest, again, you can always reach me. Instagram, like I said, is the best way to do it at Cinematic Traveler Pod. Or you can go to my email address, thecinematictravelerpod@gmail.com. And let's see, I don't know what my next episode. I have a series that I'm going to start, and I'm not sure when I'm going to release those episodes, but I will have a review for something in the movie theater. I'll watch it this weekend and get that out to you, I guess Sunday or Monday. I'm not really sure. There's not a whole lot coming out. I might go see that Bob Dylan biopic that seems to be getting a little bit of buzz. But either way, I'll have something out for you by the end of the weekend, if not a little bit sooner. So again, if you're following the show, you can keep track of that, and it would make your life a whole lot easier. So before I go, I just want to thank you once again for taking the time out of your day to listen to my podcast. I greatly appreciate you as an audience member. I tell everyone I know I've got the smartest and sexiest audience in all the podcast universe. You never fail to live up to those high standards. And as you are traveling around on this blue and green ball, bouncing through the cosmos in the year of our Lord 2025, I need you to do one thing for me. Go out and do that voodoo that you do so well. Punch it!